Here's a structured signal from WellView 365, powered by freshnews.ai. Operators who treat content automation as an ops lever turn waiting rooms into reliable, low-friction clinical communication channels. Executive summary. Content automation for waiting room and patient-facing messaging is now an operational system that controls how messages are created, approved, and delivered into daily clinical workflows. It connects templates, ownership, approvals, and publishing schedules, so staff do not rely on ad hoc updates or individual initiative to keep information current. This shift turns content from a peripheral marketing asset into part of the core infrastructure that supports safe, consistent staff and patient communication. Today's signal. Operations leaders are pulling content automation into annual planning because disconnected tools create friction and risk in patient-facing workflows. Budget resets are exposing how many unowned screens, signage, and staff updates still rely on manual workarounds or local edits. Executives are consolidating messages into accountable systems with clear owners, audit trails, and publish rules, instead of treating it as a side marketing project. Teams use WellView 365 for streamlined internal staff communication to centralize ownership while reducing manual touchpoints and keeping execution consistent. Why it matters. Here are 4 takeaways. First, unowned waiting room and patient-facing screens force nurses, front desk staff, and managers to improvise updates, pulling time away from direct patient work. Second, inconsistent messages across locations create confusion for staff who must explain why information on screens does not match current policies or workflows. Third, manual email blasts and printed notices for every change increase the risk that some units never receive or implement critical updates. Fourth, treating content as infrastructure enables central scheduling, standard approvals, and clear accountability, which simplifies internal communication planning. How it works in practice. A common example is a system-wide change in check-in, masking, or visitor flow that must appear the same at most registration desk and waiting area. Clinical operations drafts the updated instructions and routes them through clinical leadership, compliance, and communications before release. Without centralized content automation, each site prints its own signage, updates its own screens, and sends separate staff emails, which creates version drift and missed updates. When content automation is treated as an operations control, one approved message feeds digital screens, internet posts, staff huddles, and printed signage from a single source. Staff get a clear, consistent script and no longer need to interpret or rewrite messages locally. One practical adjustment. This week, designate a single operational owner for waiting room and patient-facing content. What to do next? Here are 4 takeaways. First, inventory all locations, screens, and channels where patients and staff see operational messages and note who currently updates each one. Second, map the current approval and publishing steps for a recent policy or workflow change and document every manual handoff. Third, select one high-traffic workflow message and centralize its template, approvals, and publishing schedule into a single controlled process. Fourth, set a recurring review cadence where operations, clinical leadership, and communications confirm ownership and update rules for patient-facing content systems. Read more at wellview365.com.